There are many ways that we play with illusion in our lives, but perhaps one of the less fun ways is when we use illusion to deceive ourselves from what would otherwise be an enjoyable life journey. And yet, if you've shown up here on this video, I'm imagining that you've actually quite recently dispelled quite a few illusions inside and around you in your life. And if you find yourself connecting with this video at this moment, you're being offered a very clear invitation to your own inner discernment. And so, from that place, I say, greetings, powerful being you. I'm Danielle Lynn. I love to connect with very cool cats, very cool creators such as yourself, who are deliberately and intentionally choosing to move through their life in a way that is a full yes with their heart. So, as mentioned, I get the sense that you have dramatically dispelled some key illusions in your life. And these illusions simply appear to be illusions about how you thought you had to live, how you thought you had to move, maybe even what's a yes or no to you. We've touched on this before. If you're someone who's watched this video, you've clearly done a tremendous amount of inner work. The dispelling of illusions we're talking about here is actually some pretty, I'm going to call it high-level alchemy. Because there's a period of time where we maybe apply an external model of reality, and it gives us a sense of structure, a sense of how we can navigate this is right or this is wrong or this is how all the things work. And there becomes a point in your journey where you understand that those perceptions themselves are actually quite self-limiting, and they're often very narrow in scope and don't contain the full spectrum of resonant truth of what is. Peeling back the belief structures, we're simply left with the neutral experience as it is, just the starkness of the experience. And so when this particular conversation emerges in your space, whenever it is, it's an acknowledgement of not only the dispelling of illusions, but you're at a precipice where you are choosing to apply your discernment in such a precise way that doors that were previously closed to you, ways of living that were previously closed to you, are now tickling at the sides of your reality, going, maybe. And this can be interesting for a lot of people because it's possible that they were once options or pathways of life that were a complete no before, perhaps due to certain belief structures. Maybe you were in a religion, maybe there was just certain ways of seeing things that made them absolutely no's. But now that you've done a lot of the inner work and you've opened up your perception field and you've arrived at a certain place of grounding with that work, some of these things are starting to appear from the peripheral to be reevaluated by you with your newfound clarity, with your newfound presence and decisiveness. But deeper than this, you've arrived at a point where certain things that maybe have accompanied you up until this point have been revealed to be distractions. Technically, a distraction is anything that temporarily disconnects you from being present in the moment. Now, I'm going to share with you how you can apply your alchemist skill set in order to transmute what were once distractions into the gold of present moment experience. In other words, shifting any outdated behavior or relational patterns towards systems or situations in your life in a way where you are allowing yourself to live, walk, and embody your genuine power so that you can continue to have a lot of fun with what's going on in your world and in your field. So let's go ahead and walk through a scenario around distraction and around approaching these distractions. So one of the first things I invite people to understand is when you have an impulse that comes forward, it's often coming from a place that believes it is serving you. I would go so far as to say, on some level, it comes from a place that always believes it's serving you. Even disruptive or seemingly destructive behaviors originate from a place that imagine they are serving you in some way. When people, for example, lash out at those around them, on some level, they believe that they are protecting themselves. Now, this doesn't abdicate people from personal responsibility. It does, however, give you an understanding that really every single one of us is working from our most clear understanding of how we know how to operate in the world at any given moment. And as you apply your decisiveness and your discernment to your inner world, you give yourself so much more range of deliberate choice that you shift from acting out unconscious patterns into embodied presence with everything that shows up in your life, which allows you to actually navigate scenarios and situations not only in more fruitful ways, but oftentimes in very delightful ways. So, as an example, and you can apply any desire impulse you have. Let's use the analogy of desiring a piece of chocolate cake on some level, but feeling conflicted about it. So, when it comes to patterning, specifically around things like food, a lot of times this has to do with how someone nourishes themselves or even someone's ability to feel safe. Now, let's say in this scenario, there's also a part of you that feels resistance to eating. Perhaps you want to maintain your weight a certain way and you perceive that eating that may fluctuate your weight. Perhaps you have spikes in sugars and you know eating the cake will spike your sugar levels, or perhaps you just understand that if you eat that, you're not going to feel as high energy. Maybe you'll feel very sluggish. You won't enjoy the outcome of it, even if you maybe temporarily enjoy the initial experience. Well, one of the first steps that I invite people to explore is when you have impulses, when you have desires that arise, rather than immediately squashing them, you meet them immediately without shame, blame, or condemnation. And what I mean by that is you meet them internally. You don't judge them. You don't right or wrong them. You simply completely are present with them, looking at them. And see, what happens is sometimes people feel like they're aware of these desires, but they either have very obvious or very subconscious or latent judgments on those parts. So inevitably, there will be parts that hide. Now, this is all you, right? The part of you that is asking and the part of you that is judging, it's all you, and it's you playing an interesting game of hide and seek with yourself, where if you have judgment, there's a part of you that hides away because it doesn't know how to face the scrutiny. And so it simply experiences, well, if I just don't look at it, then that's the way that I can cope with it. But once again, what this does is this often creates suppressed behavior patterns, or it can simply perpetuate a way of being dishonest within ourselves about our true intentions and about our nature and about what matters to us. On some level, having that cake matters to you. On some level, there may be a part of yourself that also understands that perhaps eating the cake right now isn't the most resonant choice. So then, what's a person to do? You have the impulse and you meet it with your full presence. As you apply your awareness to that choice in the moment and you ask yourself, what am I really interested in experiencing here? This isn't coming from judgment. This is coming from deep curiosity. And what you're doing is you're giving yourself some space to understand the fulcrum from which you are making your choices. As you understand this, you give yourself permission to be liberated from unconscious patterns that are trying to fulfill their needs, and you start to connect to more efficient, effective, and mutually inclusive solutions. Now, there may be times where you come to that moment, and you consider the chocolate cake, and you realize there's a part of you that wants it, but you can feel in your body that you're just going to feel so sluggish that instead you're like, I would really prefer feeling empowered. When you meet that moment, not from a place of you can't have the cake, because here's the key. In that moment, you actually give yourself permission for all possibilities to exist inwardly. You don't immediately deny or block it. You say, well, there is a possibility for me to have this in a resonant way, but is it the choice that I am making? Because here's what's happening. When you do that, you shift yourself from an immediate scarcity mentality or a fighting, pushing mentality into one where it is open to you, everything's open to you, but you are also making choices from the fulcrum of you that is only interested in the most resonant outcomes. And that considers things like your health, your well-being, and what could be the yes. Now, you might hear that and think, well, then of course I would end up saying no to the cake. The funny thing about operating this way is when you deliberately interface with your inner world in this way, sometimes the cake is a yes. Sometimes it is actually the higher frequency choice to give yourself permission to eat the cake. But this time, when you're eating the cake and you actually make the decision to do it, you are doing so deliberately and so consciously that it doesn't come with that secret sauce side of shame, blame, and guilt that gets snuck into the layers there. And so you eating the cake from that place actually becomes a process of complete alchemical transformation of an experience. You've just turned chocolate cake into golden awareness from that perspective. Now, we could flip it to the other side. Maybe there'll be a time when it's no to the cake, but then instead, you will inwardly guide yourself to what is the yes. And once again, it won't feel as though you're being restrictive with yourself, even though you're saying a no, you're not saying a no from a place of, I'm not allowed to have the thing. You are saying the no from the place of, I am choosing to say yes to what is more congruent for me now. And this level of discernment in your life can bring you to things that people sometimes completely write off. This can bring you to things that people once considered hedonistic, like eating an entire chocolate cake, into a place where you can begin to discern for yourself what is the yes and the no in your reality. Because what happens is, it's not about completely falling into a pit of desire in which you are endlessly trying to fill yourself up through these external means. It's bringing the choice inward, in which the external is just one playing piece through the decision-making process. We are talking about your ability to be so honest with yourself that you can move in life in ways that once appeared restricted to you based on thought forms. And so now we're coming back to a place where illusions are being shifted, because the illusions of, okay, this is exactly how things are, and this is exactly what is this way, and this is exactly what is that way, were constructs that were externally erected until you were able to come to this level of inner navigation. Now, a few caveats here, because I feel like this is so important and so clear. It requires a certain amount of absolute self-honesty, and from that perspective, absolute self-discipline with self-honesty, to allow yourself to be that open with how you navigate reality. It's a paradox, you say. And you being honest with yourself will understand your current capacity as you meet this moment, as you meet this video. And see, this is where giving yourself a lot of clarity is key. If you're in a juncture where you still feel a degree of uncertainty, doubt, then this may be a call for you to go all in with connecting to the inner clarity of your heart and discernment. You might call forward from your heart, show me a book, show me a teaching, show me a course, show me a practice, whatever it is, that may be the applicable bridge that I can choose and go all in on, so that I can develop my discernment and move through in this way. One of such tools you can apply in this way is the flow book. I actually mention this often. It's in my description link. And it is currently a free tool that you can sign up for and receive. Here's how to use this tool to develop that. What you do is you check with your heart first if it's a yes to take this approach. If your heart indicates yes, which will usually feel very open and light, then you apply a 27-day consecutive process. For 27 days, you either print out the flow book for your own personal use, or you use a random number generator from 1 to 27, and every single day you either random number generate or you flip to a random page, and that is the perspective that you read for the day, whatever number you show up on. And I say 1 to 27 because there's 27 different perspectives in the flow book. When you open up that page, you read it out loud. You read it out loud and you allow yourself to contemplate that for the day. You do that for 27 days. After 27 days, you will notice an amplification of your discernment and a shift in your ability to perceive what actually amplifies your frequency and what appears to suppress it. Now, once again, this is one tool that is available to you. I imagine there are a number of tools. So if you are very, very drawn to do this kind of exploration, either explore if doing that flowbook process is for you, in which case you can visit in description link, and you can also visit the Self Alchemy Lab, which has a deeper process within the classroom area. And or you can ask your heart, I am ready to go all in with my discernment. Please highlight for me or connect me to a tool, a book, a video, a teaching, or a method that I may apply consistently so that I may develop my discernment at this time. And I'm sharing it with you this way because there are so many different ones of us that are tuning into this video. And when you give yourself permission to access your heart again and again and again in this way, in my experience, it always, always, always will point you to the direction that's most resonant for you. It's just a matter of us listening and taking the inspired action. So with this gift of discernment that you are giving yourself at this time, this amplified gift of discernment that you're allowing yourself to embody even at an even deeper level, this allows you to navigate the entire spectrum of life without a sense of immediately thinking from a belief structure, this is right or wrong, good or bad, this or that, and instead gives you a more accurate vision from the level of your vibration and resonance with open eyes and clear heart. Then you are able to meet different things in life, and it might surprise you what actually might in any given moment amplify or lift your vibration that you might have once judged as not being a vibrational amplifier. Perhaps in a given moment, eating an entire piece of chocolate cake is the vibrational amplifier. But because you are approaching it no longer with illusion, but with that clarity, you understand when it is a yes to give it to yourself and when it is a no. And in this way, you liberate yourself from being a spiritual and a vibrational beggar into one who understands that this full range and of experience of life is actually open to you. And sometimes even when you tell yourself no to something, it is really the richest yes. You start to trust your yeses and nos more. And in that way, you begin to move through life in a way that you find mythical, in a way that you find enjoyable. And I know you know this. I know you know this in the core of your being. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. And with that, my friend, I appreciate you for joining me on today's adventure. You have such an awesome skill set, such an awesome path right here at your fingertips. And I see you and imagining you more and more so, enjoying all the fruits of your inner knowing, your inner power, your inner discernment. And you absolutely got this. Talk soon.